Everyone, please mute yourself. Welcome to the Mesa-Foothills Democratic Club February meeting. As we begin, I will introduce Christynne Wood, who's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Would you please stand, cover your heart, and perhaps if you're even retired military, you might pop that good-looking salute up there. So let's join us all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, play ball. The game is called Electing Democrats. Next, we're going to be hearing from our treasurer, Jean Mullally, who has our budget to present to us. But he's in the back of the room, so anybody know a good joke? Jean? Oh, Jean Mullally. The good joke is Kevin McCarthy. Oh my gosh. I know it was shot and recorded, but that was so much fun. That was such great TV for a while. I watched the final night when they had to pull people back. Oh God, it was gold. It was some really, really good TV. Here comes Jean with our budget. Sorry. We need to do one thing first. Those of you, hopefully everybody got an agenda. I will accept a nomination or a motion to approve the agenda with no additions. Okay. I'm sorry, who is that? Oh, Maureen. And second? Okay. It is approved without, by acclamation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Jean Mullally. I'm the treasurer. And we thought we'd be in compliance with the bylaws that we're required to prepare a budget every year and have it approved by the general membership. And so that allows us to spend the money that we have in our budget. So we need your approval. So what we did is each table, we passed out the budget, shows the, I'll try to be very quick with this, by the way. It shows if you look at the budget on the far right side of the page, it shows the budget for the year, $16,900 in revenue and $15,200 in expense. And what we did is we have a problem in our budget that in September, when we did our first draft of the budget, we run out of money in September. And by a significant amount, we run out of money. And so what we did is somebody thought of a clever idea to have a raffle. And by the raffle, we hope to generate $6,000. And so there'll be more to explain what the raffle is, but we have to submit a form to the state of California, the state attorney general's office, to meet certain conditions for engaging in a raffle. And so that's that's in the revenue side. That's expense side. Our major expenses are the newsletter publication, which is $6,000 a year, and the other part is this meeting hall, which is $4,300 a year. So those are some of the big items. So that's the budget. To explain the raffle be very quick, is Katie asked to have Katie Seghetti, our wonderful, brilliant, and beautiful Katie Seghetti, to describe the raffle to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. So as Jean mentioned, we're hoping to hold a fundraising raffle to kind of help supplement our club and what we do, and especially going into the 2024 election cycle, which is exciting. So starting at our June meeting, assuming that our application from this, I think it's the state, correct? State Attorney General's office is approved, we are going to start selling a total of 200 raffle tickets from June through August. So we'll have a cap at 200 tickets sold total. Raffle tickets will be $30 a piece. And we'll be selling them at the June, July, and August general meetings in addition to periods between those meetings. So we'll put out email communications and social media communications about that. 2 winners will be then polled at the September general meeting. And the first prize will be $500 cash, and the second prize will be $100 cash. And as Jean said, we hope to generate between, I think, $5,400 and $6,000 through the raffle. So that's what we project. So that's an exciting thing coming here in the next couple months or so. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah.
Why did you cap the number so?
Well.
Come along. For the end of the night.
Yeah. Why do we have that?
Well, it makes it a good bet. There's only 200 sold, so when you buy a ticket, you know you're only up against 199 other people, so that, and there's a $500 gain on it. So
We can't start selling the tickets until we get the
Approval,
approval
yeah.
from the Secretary of State, so.
Yeah.
She's coming next month, so.
You can always do the raffle we do every meeting. You can always, everybody here can bid on our raffle that we have every meeting.
Absolutely. Good plug for the 50-50 raffle.
Yes.
That's right.
That's 50/50.
Yeah.
You do a raffle where you don't get that kind of payback.
Right.
They're not gonna allow you to raise $40,000 to give a $500 prize. They won't approve that. You've got to be more reasonable. I suspect this will be perfectly reasonable. You can't just sell unlimited tickets for $500.
It's cash or check. Yeah.
They require a 10% payout, so let's see, $600. You can only take in 90% of the total raffle amount. That's only charities and civic.
I also want to state that if we're willing to purchase a ticket for $30 for the raffle, and this is nothing against the raffle whatsoever, then we need to start thinking about the fact that we can afford $30 additional to help ourselves with the club if we have to raise dues.
Yeah.
$5 a month extra is nothing, and we all know that. Okay, so if we can afford 30 for a raffle, we can afford at least $5 to $10. We end up raising our things without complaint either.
Here.
Okay, well, since that's another issue that we can discuss later.
I think there should be a third prize.
What's that?
I think there should be a third prize. Maybe a one-year membership.
That's a good idea. Well, we'll take that in consideration to have another prize, which is a 1-year free membership.
And they could donate it back, raffle it off again.
So are there any other questions about this or the budget?
Here, excuse me. I have a question about membership. I mean, right now, if we look at this budget, over half of the revenue coming in is attributed to dues. And the dues are far lower than they were in 2020. And I'm
Right.
wondering what the club is doing to increase membership and
Right.
then increase that line item.
The membership has been dropping, the dues have been dropping off in every year since 2020, as it shows. It's went from 12,000 to 11,000 to 8,000, 8,000 next year is
I
fine.
understand, but my question is really, maybe this isn't a specific budget question, but to the club, what are we doing to increase membership?
So that's
When
excellent
was the
question.
last time you yourself invited a guest to come to one of our meetings?
Last time.
Last time, great. Okay, that's what I'm suggesting, that everybody do.
Good point.
Everybody,
Bring a guest at least once.
twice a year needs to be inviting somebody else, in particular, somebody under 50.
I don't know anybody like that. So are there any other questions? So seeing no other questions?
Miriam Falcon La Mesa, I often suggest, and I volunteer to be one of the many, first of all, solidify the members that we do have with a monthly phone call or email or text message, whatever the member wishes, to have basically, hi, it's a week out, and don't forget we're having a meeting, what are you bringing, some type of commitment, we invited somebody that you're thinking about. And we need to do that and solidify our members first, and that way, having the phone, what I call the phone tree, because the old time was always phone, okay? If we, first of all, that would take surveying the members to find out how they wish to be contacted, and if you choose not to be contacted at all, just let us know.
Well, I'll ask the membership chairman to pick that up. So is there any other questions?
That sounds like a great idea, Miriam. If anyone is interested in joining her on that, see her at the breaker after the meeting. Yes.
I have a concern about the printed cost for the newsletter. Are we working towards going online for most of us?
Yes, we know that for some people it's great to get it in the mail, and we had a big discussion about adding a option to just get it digitally and decrease our printing costs. There's also the point though, the more you print, the less each one is, and so we're gonna be looking at that in the next next month or so.
And I know it's beautiful format, but that paper's gotta be awfully expensive.
Yeah. And this room is gorgeous, but it's very expensive too. And the rent is going up in June and July. May. By a lot. So anyway, we're gonna move on. Just,
My name's Gail Gilman from the Mesa. I've been a member here, and then COVID and all this stuff, and family stuff, strife. So I kept looking online, up till even this today, to see where I could pay. I don't even see a place online where I could pay again and be a member.
talk to Katie. She can tell you we do have a website. It's La Mesa-Foothills Democratic Club. And if you go on that website, you can find our membership button to press to pay online.
Tab that says become a member. You just click on that, there's an online form. But I did go to Foothills, La Mesa, Foothills in the website, and I'm just telling you, it's not that easy.
Okay.
So tonight I was expecting over there too, but
But you can write a check tonight if you want.
I didn't bring my checkbook, I should have.
I know. I know.
But I go to cash.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the budget and the raffle program.
So moved.
Okay, Yoslan and seconded by Meryl. Thank you very much. Yay, we have a budget. Oh, any opposition? Any comment? Okay, hearing none, we can approve it by acclamation. Now I'm going to introduce Brenda Miller, who's going to introduce our first speaker. Brenda is our new head of programming, which makes me so happy. Thank you, Jean. And thank you, Jean, for all your hard work. By the way, let's always give a big hand to Richie for all our snacks and that.
Tina is the driver here. She's a hard worker and she makes us work really hard. She didn't tell me I was going to have to work this hard.
You never would have agreed.
Well, we would really love to welcome, for our Black History Month, our speaker, Dr. Rodney Hood. Dr. Rodney Hood is currently a board-certified physician of internal medicine and the managing partner of CareView Medical Group in San Diego. He was one of the first African-American to earn his medical degree from the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine. He then completed his internship and residency in internal medicine at UC San Diego University Hospital, becoming a diplomat of the American Board of International Medicine and a fellow in the American College of Physicians, FACP. He has received many prestigious awards, including being honored with UCSD Alumni Award for Excellence as an Outstanding Alumni for Professional Achievement in 2003, the CMA Foundation Adarsh S. Mahal, MD, Access to the Healthcare and Disparity Award, and the AMA Foundation Pride in the Professional Award. He is the president of the Multicultural Health Foundation in San Diego, and the clinic is now incorporated into San Isidro Health System. He serves on the board of Alliance Healthcare Foundation, which is a philanthropic foundation financially supporting nonprofit organizations serving underserved communities in Imperial and San Diego counties. He will present a topic on the ethno-historic legacies of slavery in America as a root cause of health inequalities for African Americans and post-traumatic slave disorders, or PTSD. Let's give Dr. Hood a round of applause.
Good evening. I'm delighted that you invited me. And when I was invited, one of the individuals that invited me saw a lecture that I had given at Sharp and said, "Oh, that looks like it may be a good topic." And so that's what I was going to talk about, and I still am. This presentation was designed for health professionals, doctors, and that type of thing. And I'm going to, the other thing is, who am I? I'm going to give you an overview and some insights. This is Black History Month. So although this is Black History Month, I'm going to give you an American history, because that's really what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to talk about it in a way that you probably never have heard before. And I also want to warn you, there's some very powerful emotional information. Because for a while, I would have one presentation for majority white audiences and another presentation for majority Black audiences. And W.E.B. Du Bois once said, Black folks have a dual consciousness. And it's helped us survive. And what he meant by that is Blacks are always trying to figure out how to be them and how to operate in the majority community and survive. And many times that turmoil causes stress that I think adds to disease. I felt that I've integrated that pretty well. Today, you're going to hear and see some of the presentations that I usually just give to Black audiences. So I hope you're ready. Now, you may not invite me back after you hear some of this, but let me say this. I'm a La Mesa. I've been living here in La Mesa for over 40 years. I love La Mesa. I should also confess, it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I actually became a Democrat. I wasn't a Republican. I was a rebellious independent. And a dear friend of mine, Dr. Akila Weber, started running, and she was the reason that I signed up to be Democrat. And so I plan, and my dear wife Robin, yes, Robin Hood is her name. I didn't even know this club existed, so I feel bad. But you now have 2 more members.
All right.
Now, we're going to talk family. And I'm going to try not to talk above your head. But I'm going to move down there because I have slides and I can't necessarily read them up here. So bear with me. There's a microphone down there. Can you hear me? So I want you to look here. This is me. Everybody's doing their genetic admixture. I am 51% African, 46% European, and about 3% Native American and East Asian. What you know or don't know, all the 30+ million African Americans in this country who do genetic admixture have 95% will have between 20 or more percent European. Who are we? My mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, as far as I know, were African American. They were light-skinned, dark-skinned. I came from a family of 9. Who are we? So as I started doing this, I started getting a different perspective of race. Now, I bet you didn't even think my wife was black. I wasn't sure when I met her either. So, this is a picture of her. She is 42% African, 34% European. She's damn near everything. So we're all talking about diversity, equity. African Americans are walking diversity and equity. It's really not about diversity, it's really justice. We're going to be different. Now, spiritually, I believe my ancestors taught to me. Intergenerational talking. Now, I just showed you, I got some white ancestors I've never met. Goes all the way back to slavery. I'm sure some may have been slaveholders. But I like to believe when we die, we lose our issues. We lose our issues. To me, that's heaven. And then they talk to me. And I think all of my ancestors are talking to me. Funny thing, when this came out, I was 51% African. My wife said to me, "Boy, you just made it." So, that's who I am. So now, when I start talking about blacks and white folks and all this, do not get angry at me. Okay? It's my ancestors talking. So, everybody's talking about social determinants of health. It's defined as conditions in the places where people live, learn, work, and play that affect a wide range of health outcomes. So it's not just your genes, okay? More importantly is your environment and how you live and what you eat that determines what your health is. And so mostly people like to talk about socioeconomic status, geography, education, jobs, access, gender, all that's important. But I'm going to spend time talking about the importance of race, ethnicity, racism, bias, discrimination, and toxic stress. So, everybody's talking about we want to be equal. And I like this because this is reality. And my ancestors talking. Not folks in this room, but many white folks talk about, well, let's all be equal. So all of a sudden, we got equal resources, but this person still can't see. So it's really, we cannot have equality until we first have equity. So equity means redistribution of resources in a manner that we all have equal access. Do not confuse equal and equity. A lot of the historical things I'm going to talk about come from this book. There's a volume, An American Health Dilemma, Medical History of African Americans and the Problem of Race. In the book, they talk about the slave health deficit. Today, they call it health disparities, but blacks' deficit in health goes back to slavery. And this book was written by a couple of dear friends of mine. They were professors of public health at Harvard by the name of Dr. Michael Bird and Linda Clayton. Unfortunately, Dr. Bird just passed away about a year and a half ago. So, one of the reasons why I really want to give this talk is I've been getting angry. What's happening in this country? And I'm listening to what's happening in Florida, where I just left. And I gave part of this talk there, and one of the folks in the audience said, our governor would probably kick you out of the state. You're not supposed to be talking this stuff in the state. And this was actually a picture in the Washington Post where they asked folks to describe racism. I love this picture. Because to me, that hand is white America saying, shh, don't talk about race. What we want to talk about is our history. Black history, African American history is your history. Some folks in this room got some African genes, whether you know it or not. So, yes, I've been known not to shut up. So now, what do I mean by post-traumatic slavery disorder? Racism in the ethno-historic and intergenerational trauma suffered by slave descendants that's associated with epigenetics and legacy of slavery in the U.S. produces an insidious chronic physiological stress called allostatic load. This causes an increased risk for multiple chronic diseases, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, significant contributor to health disparities in this population, leading to early death. Now, I'm talking about post-traumatic slavery disorder. There was actually a book written by Dr. Joy DeGruy, who's a psychologist, talked about post-traumatic slave syndrome. And basically her book focuses on the behavior of African Americans and the pathology of African Americans and the behavior that they have as the direct result of slavery. But what I'm talking about is that behavior and that trauma actually leads to disease as a contributor to why on every level mostly African Americans have the highest rates of heart disease, cancer, strokes. Why? Is it because they're poor? Is it because genetics?
Excuse me, Dr. Hood?
Yes.
Can you define epigenetics, please?
I will. So, I'm going to define it as we go on. Epigenetics is like sickle cell disease is caused by a genetic gene. Epigenetics is you have genes that have a propensity but will never manifest disease until a certain environment triggers. Stress, toxic air. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to go back thousands of years. My wife's giving me instructions. Let me make sure I got it right. Am I supposed to stand up? Well, I didn't want to stand up so people could see. But let me do this.
Robin Hood is telling,
Robin Hood.
is telling you what to do.
And it took me 30-plus years to learn just to say, yes, dear. So, this was actually taught in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, where they taught that this is the hierarchy of man, that Europeans were at the top, followed by Africans, followed by apes. And one of the things they postulated was that you could measure the facial angle of man, and that Europeans had a facial angle close to 90 degrees, blacks less than 90 degrees, and apes less than 60. And this is what I call one of the first Eurocentric IQ tests. And this was taught in science, in medical school. So this isn't racism, this is dehumanization. So we're talking about what just happened in Memphis, George Floyd. We're saying, that's inhuman. That's correct. It started a long time ago where subconsciously, whites and even blacks perceive themselves as less than human. I call it the Black Holocaust. I call it the Black Holocaust. Before getting on the slave ship, the pre-Atlantic slave roundup period, they bring them from the interior to the shore, getting ready to ship over to the Americas and Caribbean. It is estimated that 18 to 25 million souls died before they got on the ship. Brutal treatment, new diseases. When they got on the slave ship, crossing the sea, another 5 to 6 million souls died. Now, if they were fortunate enough to make it, there was a 3-year break-in period where there was a 30 to 50% death rate. Only the strong survived. This was never taught. What is the result of that? Physicians in the health system were significant participants during this period. Bear with me. It's not a pleasant story. Each ship, 1 or 2 doctors. They were on the ship to try to keep the slaves alive. Slaves were insured by property. If they died from sickness, the insurance wouldn't pay. They died from drowning, they would. This was an actual ship in which a lot of slaves were sick and felt getting ready to die. The doctors went around trying to identify which ones they felt were going to die. They chained them together, and once they thought would die, they threw them over. When they arrived, they applied for their insurance, and the insurance paid. This is from the movie Amistad. Steven Spielberg. It's a true story. During the transatlantic slave period, the exact year I don't know, but it was a ship headed to Jamaica. once they got here, were now in the U.S. health system. This is Dr. Marion Sims. He's considered the father of medicine, of women's health, because he developed certain women procedures that he became well known for and they taught in the medical schools. He was a graduate of the University of South Carolina. Okay? He developed his techniques by operating on slaves. That's an actual slave, Betsy and Arthur. These are his students. He performed surgical operations on them without anesthesia to perfect his profession. Dr. Marion Sims. This is Dr. Samuel Cartwright, graduate from the University of Philadelphia or Harvard, I forget which. He moved to Louisiana and was head of the department. You know what the department was? The Department of the Negro. We were a specialty. They used to think blacks were inferior and different diseases. The slave owners in New Orleans had a problem. And that's because a lot of the slaves were running away. They weren't hanging slaves then. They were property. And they said, well, why are they running away? They went to the University of Louisiana, got the local medical professional who did a study, published it in the Boys' Journal, wrote an article, and concluded that the reason why the slaves are running away is they suffer with a mental disease called drapetomania, runaway madness. And one of the cures was to give them a little bit more freedom and placate them. The masters came back and said, well, you know, some of us do that, boss. And they still run away. He said, aha, those slaves that still do it suffer with a different mental disease called dysesthesia ethiopica. Dysesthesia ethiopica, rebelliousness. And the treatment was medical whipping, the health system. Now, there are many more. And when I'm talking to the medical students, and I talk about, because some of these are well-known physicians, but nobody's really told this story. Me and my colleagues are trying to get defined the definition of racism and white supremacy to mean the mentality of displaced arrogance supported by fake science due to a subconscious inferiority complex causing an overrated opinion of self that is fueled with inappropriate self-grandeur, perpetuating false assumptions of superiority, leading to the creation and enforcement of laws, policies, beliefs, biases that favor their advancement over their racialized groups. Now, does that describe some folks we know on the other side? I hope you invite me back. So, the experience of black folks in this country, (1619) to 1865, supposedly Emancipation Proclamation, 62% of our existence was in chattel slavery. The next 100 years, 1865 to 1965, that was when Jim Crow was in advance. We always think of Jim Crow down south. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. And hell, I thought I was in Jim Crow. Anybody from Boston? And then, after Jim Crow, we began to get some citizens' rights. So really 13, 15 years or so, social injustice, health inequities, the slave health deficit, the struggle continues. So I like to talk about the ingredients of American culture of racism. It's not just a simple thing. Now, when I first met my wife, she invited me by and cooked me some gumbo because she lived in Louisiana. I fell in love with gumbo. But what I learned about gumbo was that depending upon who's making it and what part of the country, it looks different, it tastes different. You know, some part, you know, you got a lot of red sauce and darker sauce. So gumbo's got roux, vegetables, sausage, chicken, seafood, filet. Here in America, racism has the isms: racism, sexism, classism, and colorism. Oh, we need to talk about colorism. We also have a lot of xenophobia. A whole lot of ignorance and intolerance. And then we throw a little religious dogma in there and we just mix it up, and we got racism in America. Depending upon what part of the country you're at. How does this affect health? One of the ways to measure it is excess deaths, okay? And when we look at cardiovascular disease and premature heart deaths, that means deaths that are prevented if everybody had equal treatment in an equal way in there. Those deaths shouldn't exist. At the top, Native Americans, followed by blacks, followed by black Hispanics, followed by non-black Hispanics, Asians, Pacific Islanders, and whites. So you can see even in the Hispanics, the darker Hispanics have worse health outcomes. That's what I mean by colorism. And I conclude American culture can be bad for your health. This is documented by science. So about 20 years or so ago, this study was sponsored by the Institute of Medicine, National Institute of Health, and they came up with a report called Unequal Treatment. This study contained over 200, 300. This is just one of them. And they looked at, what they were seeing was that blacks who had heart disease, outcomes were worse than whites, and they didn't know why. They wanted to know, did it have anything to do with how physicians treated them? In this study, these were actually actors. They chose 4 blacks, half white, half men, half women, and same down here. And they all recorded a story, exactly the same. Thousands of physicians sat down, looked at them, and then independently said, what's the diagnosis and what should I do? Doctors are well trained in this country, and they all came up with the correct diagnosis: cardiovascular disease. The next question was, well, what do you recommend? And for some reason, blacks, especially black women, had the recommended therapy recommended less than whites. And so what this proved was, it wasn't access, it wasn't insurance, it wasn't them saying no, it was this bias, unconscious bias, that health professions had of people of color. You can now measure your bias. There's the explicit bias, and then there's the subconscious bias. And this is called the Harvard Implicit Bias Test. Over 1 million, maybe close to 2 million folks now have taken this test, and you can actually take it, and it will give you an idea as to, do you have a subconscious bias to gays or whites or blacks? And this was actually a study, and I'm not going to bore you with these numbers, but let me just tell you what the conclusion was. Out of all those millions, several thousand were physicians, and they were able to identify them by race and ethnicity and gender. What did they conclude? Physicians as a whole had higher anti-black biases than all other test takers, even attorneys. In America, all physician ethnic groups showed anti-black biases except for African-American physicians who showed little or no bias. That does not mean black physicians do not have some bias. This is just general. Female physicians showed less bias than males, and African-American female physicians showed the least bias. Well, just because you have a bias, does that mean you're going to make negative decisions? And this is a study that said yes. That when they looked at physicians by race and ethnicity, this number here, the more positive 0.35 versus 0.04, the more positive, the more negative towards blacks. And these Asians, whites, were making the most negative decisions towards blacks than Latinos, others, and blacks. That's what this study showed. Although on a subconscious level, I often say, if you run over somebody and you kill them on accident or on purpose, they're still dead. So, stress. We all have stress. Am I boring you?
No, not at all.
Okay, because
And I'm kind of stupid, but I'm famous.
How come Fox doesn't have this on?
I'm sorry.
How come Fox doesn't have this on?
Invite him here. So, disproportionate violent deaths among blacks causing excess emotional trauma in black communities and families. Black Lives Matter. I mean, that's not difficult to understand, but no. Peaceful protest characterized as unpatriotic with a retort that all lives matter. No stuff. Okay? What is it that every time you point something out, it's this subconscious denial? Muslims portrayed as terrorists, ignoring the fact that the majority of the 1.6 billion Muslims are peaceful and family oriented. Where in fact, the real terrorists, don't get angry at me, but ancestors told me to put this up there. 34%. But domestic terrorism, 71%. White people. Yet, we're more afraid of blacks and Muslims and everybody else. I'm from Boston, very ethnic city where Irish live, Italian live. I grew up around a lot of immigrants, and I know the European immigrants were welcomed. Here in this country, non-European immigrants are arrested and children taken away. The hypocrisy. Yet, chain migration for the family of President Trump's wife.
Don't get us started.
I'm just talking. In the past, white supremacists had a little shame. They wore hoods.
But easily identified.
Today, let's take them off. We, in this country, as a result of all that history, hopefully you'll understand why we see some of the health data that we now see. Place and race, not your genetics, are the most powerful tools in determining what your health outcome will be. Anybody recognize that? 92.
Oh,
A baby born in La Jolla, life expectancy of 85 years. A baby born in 91915, which is down in South Bay, 80 years. 92114, that's where my office is in Southeast San Diego. 92115, 79 and 77 years. What's up with that? So you think it's poverty? Absolutely has something to do with it. The toxic environment? Absolutely has something to do with it. But within that environment, there are blacks, Hispanics. Hispanics live longer than some whites. So now we're really getting confused. Life expectancy in the U.S. population averaged 78.61 years overall. Asians, 87.28, Hispanics, 83.48 years, whites, 78.74 years, Native Americans, 75, and blacks, 75.26. That intergenerational toxic stress, ACEs, allostatic load, poverty. Okay? But it's rough. It's rough being a master sometimes. That has toxicity too. This is changing. The more discrimination now being shown in this population, we're now beginning to see the life expectancy go down. U.S. maternal infant mortality rates by race and ethnicity. The mortality rate for U.S. mothers is 23.8 per 100,000 births. For non-Hispanic whites, it's 20.7. Hispanics, 16.5, and African Americans, the highest, 52.5. Now, this is, think of this now. You take a black woman, put her in La Jolla, better income, her statistically mortality rate is going to be less than if she lived in the ghetto, but it's never going to equal what the whites are. Why is it that black women still have higher mortality rates? Same thing with infant mortality rate. So social status is important, but race is important. Now, I grew up in a family of 9. I had 4 sisters. Some were dark-skinned, some were light-skinned, some had curly hair, some had straight hair. Some were lighter and darker. There are issues in the black community around hair, around color, around beauty, around looks. It's very hard to even talk about. I gotta be careful. But I think it causes stress. That's not talked about. Why is it Floyd, Memphis, getting beat to death? 2 grown men. They called for their mama. Didn't call on Jesus. Didn't call on Moses or Muhammad. Why? The bond between the mother. I've seen grown men in prison call for their mamas. Because no matter how bad they were, it was the mother from birth that always gave them unconditional love and justice. Adverse childhood events. Are you familiar with that term? Yes. So, actually here in San Diego at Kaiser, Dr. Filodi was the first one, I think in 1998, looked at thousands of Kaiser patients and actually did a study and did a questionnaire about between the ages from birth to 18 about having adverse childhood events. What happened during childhood? Divorce, drugs, sexual abuse, etc. And the more of those adverse events, there was a direct correlation with the amount of diseases that that adult had in life. Diseases, not just emotional diseases, but heart disease, cancer. In that study, there was a subgroup of blacks and Hispanics whose ACE scores were higher than anybody else. And so this is his study here. This is studies looking at ACE scores in folks developing ischemic heart disease. And basically, ACEs lead to lifelong toxic stress contributing to adult chronic diseases, including ischemic heart disease. There's many studies now showing this, that it's a very real phenomenon. And African Americans have one of the highest ACE scores. And, you know, that's trying to describe it here. Childhood diseases, social, emotional, cognitive impairment, adoption of health risk behaviors, disease, disability, social, early death. I'm going to go quickly. This is also a part of the study saying that if you have no ACEs, let's say your suicide rate is 1, injection drugs are 1, but the more ACEs you have, you can see exponentially the risk of suicide, drug injections, alcoholic, recent depression, lung disease, heart disease go up. And therefore, the effects of ACEs and allostatic load, and I'll talk about what that is, on health outcomes. Blacks have higher ACE scores, higher allostatic load levels than all other ethnicities. This contributes to excess disease burden and shorter life expectancies. So this is an interesting slide, but I'm not going to spend too much time. The reason why I'm going to show this is somebody asked about epigenetics. And if you look over here, biology accounts for about, and these are estimates, but anywhere from 15 to 30%, okay? But lifestyle is somewhere over 50%, your environment 12%, and the medical system only 10%. This is where we put all our money, trillions of dollars. But the lifestyle and environment is what's killing us or making us unhealthy. And that's basically what this is trying to show, what the relationship is. So we say, well, we need to improve our lifestyle. I work in Southeast San Diego. And last time I told one of my patients, well, it would be good if you went out for a walk and swam. They said, well, I don't want to get shot by the gangs. And I'm a black woman, I don't want to get my hair wet. Issues. Okay? So it is not always easy to improve your lifestyle in certain environmental conditions. Okay? And many physicians, you know, they say, well, I keep telling them to exercise into this and they won't listen to me. So epigenetics is, yes, genes are there, and you got a set of genes, but if you're exposed to these stresses, racism, air quality, chemicals, violence, poverty, etc., that triggers some of these genes to cause certain diseases. That's called epigenetics. So it's not a gene that causes hypertension. There's not a gene that causes diabetes. It's the stressful environment. So you can take a twin who has the same genetic makeup and put one in one environment, they'll develop X, but the other will not. And allostatic load is the chronic insidious physiological stress causing wear and tear on the body organs, leading to chronic diseases. So they can actually measure allostatic load now, levels of allostatic load, but this is just trying to show you. Always hear me talk about racism because I think that's a significant contributor, especially to people of color. We all have allostatic load. All of us have stresses and whatnot. But in certain communities, it's much higher, and therefore having a more wear and tear on the body than other populations. So, and so now we're talking about structural racism, racialized social determinants of health. So we talk about social determinants of health, but in certain cultures, it's racialized. And I'm going to go quick. These are actually some scientific studies talking about what I'm talking about. I'm going to go through quickly. Dr. Williams is actually at Harvard. I don't know if any of you ever heard him talk, but very dynamic person when he talks about this. He's done lots of research. And this is talking about the physiological response to stress and how it causes hypertension. You release cortisol, catecholamines, angiotensin, etc. That causes salt retention, volume overload, abnormal vasoreactivity leading to elevated blood pressure caused by stress. The whole issue of allostatic load, they're now measuring, and what they found, this is just one study, that blacks have higher allostatic load scores than whites, even higher than poor whites. And what's unusual in the black community, black women have a higher allostatic load at a certain age than black men. For whites, Hispanics, Asians, it's the other way around. Okay? Going back to infant mortality. The whole stress of raising black children in America and being told, don't talk about it. Worrying about if their child goes out, going to get stopped driving while black. I had one patient call me up, was having a crisis with their child who was schizophrenic and acting very bizarre. And she was really afraid he may hurt her or somebody else. And I said, well, you know, you may need to call the police. She said, Dr. Wood, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. She was more afraid of the police coming, killing her son, than she was of the son killing her. This is the black woman. These are the stresses that take place in the black community nobody talks about.
Is that true of hurt?
I'm
Is
sorry?
that true also in the police department, the organization called PERT?
So PERT, I think, is one of the tools that should be used in those situations. So
Dr. Hood,
yes.
I'm hoping to have him speak in May as Mental Health Month, Dr. Marvin. So that's in charge of PERT.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. No, that's one of the tools that should be used much more. Okay. Rather than sending the police out there. So can we measure the stress? I'm not going to do this. This is to basically what this is stating is, as an internist, I measure your cardiovascular risk. Okay. So. This is Pastor Miles McPherson wrote a book on racism. He actually quotes me in there because he interviewed me when he was writing the book. Very good book.
He's a pastor from the Rock.
So, yeah, the Rock Church. So what I'm saying in Australia, they've done some of the same studies around the Aborigines who received a lot of racism, and these are the outreach to the community saying, for Aborigines, racism makes me sick. It's very real. And I'm going to end it with
Little Rock, Arkansas. How long you been in San Diego?
I have quite some time, can't remember it. but my parents have sought me to take care of me, my aunts.
Tell me what happened to you when you were 7.
When I was 7, I was kidnapped off the back porch by the classmates. They put me in a croaker sack and rode the wagon down to the overflow between West Memphis and Marietta, Arkansas. They put me in a grave, a shallow grave. And I tell you what, it was full of snakes. My little overalls was, I could feel them crawling in me, crawling on me. And as I'm down in that hole of that grave, that shallow grave, I hear screaming and hollering up on top of the ground. Please, mister, please, I didn't do nothing to nobody. I got a family to take care of. Please, mister, and it went silent. Then you hear it again. No, I had nothing to do with nothing going on. Please, mister, please. It went silent again. And I heard the shovels dig back up out of the ground. The man pulled me up out of that shallow grave. Snakes falling out of my overalls. And I'm seeing fire to my left. I'm seeing 2 men hung there, burning, with their stuff in their mouth with color-headed feathers on them. And they pulled me over there to the fire. And they took a piece of wood out the fire and put it to my leg. And they said, scream, nigga. Scream. Scream, boy. Scream. It burned. My flesh was burning. And I didn't scream. And I asked them, why are you burning me? And they said, because we gotta go out there and hear a nigga scream. James spoke, scream. The man pushed him out to get another one. And he took a hawk to a knife. And he roasted it in the fire till it got red hot. And he stuck it over to my bone, and he put it into my bone and said, scream, nigga, scream. Let these kids hear you scream, spook. And I heard shooting. And people running and hollering and grabbed me. And they put me in the wagon and took me home. And they put turtle tablets. What was a fatback? And they tried to kill me again when I went back to school because I could recognize some of them. And they sent me out here with my family and kept me away from them. The only present I had was my dad and my cousin and Dr. White taking care of me since I was a baby, since 7. You see that?
So is that why you don't like the door closed?
No, it's because of the grave. They closed me in on the grave. The snakes. I'm crawling. Please, mister, don't put me in the grave anymore.
So what did they do to those 2 men?
They hung them. They cut them open, took their things and put it in their mouth in privates. And they put colloid and feathers on them. And tore, and they burned him in the tree.
How old were you?
I was 7. I've seen it with my own eyes. And then they had an empty rope with a wooden stump waiting for me. And as they were dragging me toward that, they stopped by the fire. That's when they burned me. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Please let me out. Please let me out. Let me go. Please. Please.
You want to leave here?
Yes, I got to. Please.
So, intergenerational trauma through epigenetics, legacy of slavery, ACEs, allostatic load. Structural racism remains deadly for blacks in America. Thank you. I apologize for going over.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. That was very educational. We really, our time has gotten away. It was very, just really enjoyed listening to that. It's very heart-wrenching. But we look forward to you coming back again. Looks like we have one question.
Dr. Hood, I just had a question. With your making presentations, are some of, well, like UCSD and some of the medical schools teaching this now and making, the new doctors up and coming aware of these things? And is it in the curriculum?
So, more and more, I'm sorry.
And repeat her question, please.
Her question was, is this being taught in medical school? And is it incorporated into the curriculum? This particular presentation or some form of it, I was privileged. I was one of the first African Americans to graduate from UCSD. I've always had a love-hate relationship with UCSD because of some of my experiences out there. But they've invited me. I've given this lecture at least a dozen times to the second-year medical students. I haven't done it in about 5-6 years or so, but they now have a whole course of health disparities, so they may accept 120 students, but maybe 25 of them actually subspecialized in health equity and health disparities. Many of them rotate through my office. So this is happening not only at UCSD, but throughout the country. So that's really what keeps my faith going, because I can see the youngsters coming out of medical school have a total different outlook on health equity and racism than when I went to school. Yes?
You said throughout the country, would you say Florida is
Well, there are individuals down there in Florida that I know was teaching this, but with your current governor, I think he's trying to stop that from happening. Yeah, I may be arrested in Florida.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for having me.
We look forward to part 2 next year. And we'd like to move on with our next speaker who experienced trauma just recently. Her name is Christynne Wood. Christina, would you like to come up and share your story as a Black lady here in San Diego? Let's give a hand up. For Christina sharing.
Okay, first things first. We have got to applaud Dr. Hood and the light of his life, Robin, one more time for bringing the light of truth, in fact, no matter how traumatic and ugly, to the very people who know it. But have we ever seen it quite so eloquently put out there? So thank you, Dr. Hood. Thank you, the Mesa-Foothills Democratic Club, for bringing this to us. And thank you, Brenda, even though she totally mispronounced my name. It's Christynne, T-Y-N-N-E, is a soft vowel. So let's let you know something. What I experienced was nothing. It wasn't even a nanogram of what went on. Now, as you look at me, who out there has no clue who I am or what happened out at the Santee City Hall Council on the 11th of January, 2023? If you don't know, put your hand up. If you've never heard of this before, go on, don't be bashful. I mean, really, how many of us pay that much attention to Santee City politics? Truly not. And you're right, usually not to. Now, I don't want to get too close to the microphone or we'll get feedback. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, because I have ex-spouses who say, trust me, your voice carries. Okay? Now, here's what you, oh, we're good, honey, we're good. And I'm sorry I picked on you like that. Just in the name of accuracy.
Well, I've been tearing your name up ever since I've been talking.
No, well, that's okay. So here's what happened. On Wednesday, the 11th of January, a young woman by the name of Rebecca, I believe the last name is Phillips, went before the Santee City Council and insisted during the public speaking portion of it that she had seen a naked man in the locker room of the Cameron YMCA. Now, I can't do service to the job this child had been coached to do, so I would ask you just look it up. There's a certain alleged news channel here in town whose call letters I will not speak because I try not to speak filth in front of decent people. But trust me, it's all over there. Just look their call signs up. If you have Cox Cable, it's Channel 9. If you have DirecTV like me, it's Channel 51, and that's all we'll say of it. Anyway, it went viral. It went nationwide. It actually went international. The New York Post picked it up. The London Mirror picked it up. She even got her spot on Tucker Carlson. She truly became the toast of the right and of transphobia, insisting that her life was at risk, that she was terrified, in spite of the fact that we were never alone in that locker room together, and that I've been a member of the Cameron Y. And as Dr. Hood would say, we don't really see a lot of black people in an aqua environment, but the Westmoreland clan, we've been water babies since way back when, because it's family legend that the first of us who saw the shore said, thanks for getting me a ride, now I can swim the rest of what I So we kind of figured that whole part out. Well, anyway, I should go ahead, and I know time is up. You folks have just been wonderful. How's about I go ahead and repeat what I said to the town council? And please, look it up. I mean, it's on NBC in 2 flavors, English and Spanish. It's on ABC. It's on CBS. And it is certainly on KPBS. All the legitimate news services have picked this up and put the truth out there. So here's what I responded with. By the way, we had over 100 people there. They were blown away. Mayor Mento didn't know what in the world to do. They have never had this kind of a response. And actually, they had the haters there. They had the women there to say, well, when you dig my skeleton up, and I said, Jesus, that can't be soon enough. But you know, they'll check my pelvis and know I was a woman. Well, honey, you're missing the point. Nobody's denying you're a woman. But nobody gets away with saying I'm not one either. So anyway, this was my response. We've timed it out, 2 minutes, 51 seconds. Tina is right there to grab the hook if we run over. All right, so good evening. My full name is Christynne Wood. I'm 66 years old and reside in East County. Well, Lakeside, I don't mind letting you know. Just 3.1 miles from here. I'm a San Diego County retiree after 29 years of civil service with HHSA. I'm a member of the Cameron YMCA for about a year now, and I absolutely love my water aerobics classes there. Those classes have helped me lose 60 pounds in the last year, and the health benefits have been phenomenal. It appears that I inadvertently caused quite a scandal on the morning of Thursday, December 29th, 2022, after another wonderful class, and by the way, they're all great classes. I had just showered, dressed, and hugged our instructor. Her name is Peggy, by the way. Wished her and some of my other Aqua sisters a wonderful new year and departed the locker room for Palm Springs. It was on the morning of Thursday, January 12th, that my Aqua sister Vicky called to say, Chrissy, I'm so sorry about what happened last night in Santee. I replied, what happened? She said, oh my God, you don't know, do you? Let me send you the Instagram video. I watched it and I collapsed in tears. Since then, the amount of organized hatred, lies, to vilify and demonize me and other members of the transgender community is beyond disgusting and disheartening. I'm here to spread the light of truth in the face of these inaccuracies. I'm a mom, a grandmother, and as my beloved granddaughter says, my Nana. Now please look at me and listen to the sound of my voice. I am a threat to no one. In the year that I have been a member of the Y, children have attended summer camp and have been with their parents and their grandparents in the women's locker room with me, and there has never, ever been an incident, ever. Not until one was manufactured using this forum to do so. Transgender is simply a medical condition, as is my need to wear corrective lenses when I drive, my high blood pressure, my type 2 diabetes. I am fully transitioned, as can be confirmed by my doctor at Sharps, who is also my gynecologist. I'm sorry that this forum was previously used to spread lies and a hateful political agenda. God bless you and thank you for this opportunity. In the words of Maya Angelou, a wise woman wishes to be no one's enemy, and a wise woman refuses to be anyone's victim. I am a threat to no one. When you brought me here to show support, first of all, God bless you for that. But let me let you know something. They picked on the wrong woman to think they were going to try to do something like this. The support I've received from the community and from those of you. I worked with Meryl. Meryl knows what a pain in the butt I can be. Nowhere near her, mind you, very much, but still. Absolutely, we don't deal with bashfulness. Dr. Hood, my grandparents and great-aunt and uncles marched with Dr. King. We don't run from bullies. We don't accept lies either. Don't think I wasn't concerned. How are these conservative women in Santee gonna see me and accept me? Most of them have come up and said, "You're trans?" You know, yeah. One woman, the whole time she was talking to me, is looking down, and I'm going, "You're interested now?" You know, you've been showering with me for a year. And I said, "You're still looking down." Hey, my face is up here. You know, I said, so my point is that this is simply the next step in civil rights.
Right.
They couldn't dare attack saying, "There's a black person in the locker room." Oh, no. But see, now they get two birds with one stone. A black trans woman. And if you look up this child's hateful diatribe, and keep in mind this, that 17-year-old didn't go there of her own accord. The people who posted the video in the first place, she was their tool. Unwitting tool. The speeches are written for her. Her trip to Tucker Carlson was written for her. This was all her being used toward their political end. Plain and simple. So you know what, with regard to words of support, and I'll wrap this up, because let's face it, you're all tired. It's a Wednesday night, you're ready to go home. And so help me God, Tina's looking at that hook more and more. Look, please let me share with you just a couple of things, and then I promise I'm getting out of your way, I'm gonna shut up. This is a letter I received, and then I'm gonna finish it up with one of the ones from the women at the Santee Y. How about that? Good evening, my name is Jennifer Broma. I am an East County resident and a teacher at Santana High School. I am one of the advisors for the school GSA club. I first learned of the events from the students in our club. They recounted the details of how Christynne, a YMCA member, was being targeted by anti-trans protesters for using the women's locker room. I believe they were surprised and scared that this event happened in their hometown. I was proud of how they spoke of their support for Christynne, and one of our members attended the counter protest in her support. There has been hate surrounding these events. I prefer to look at the heroes, the ones that stand up for what is right and inspire our youth. Christynne is one of those heroes. She stood up and spoke out against the hate, rallying others to stand up and take action. Thanks to Christynne, those students feel seen and validated. That is something so important for our LGBTQ youth. Thank you. This one, she was swimming today, so I got her permission so I get to use her name, and this will be quick. She sent this to the city manager of Santee. The morning before I went out and spoke to the city council, her name really is Christynne Wood. Okay? And to the manager, you will be hearing this issue that should be categorized as plaintiff needs to mind their own business. As a Y member, it is a no drama zone. Many women of a certain age attend. We are the generation who grew through all the nonsense expectations placed on women. We reject any interface and intervention at the Y, which for us is a pleasant place to work out. Your actions tonight should ensure that the Y remains inclusive and open to all. Don't screw this up. This demographic is smart, vocal, and intolerant of BS. Reminder which demographic always votes? Older white women. You see that? This hangs on my refrigerator. I think a child of about 7. Her parents handed it to me at a counter protest. Thank you, Ms. Wood. Our family supports you, and we are grateful for your openness. Sarah and family. Now see, here's what we do. I got the support. All the way from our parents, God and Mrs. God. And by the way, Mrs. God is Mother Nature. So they've all got it. You've got it for me. Here's what I need you to keep doing. Support the Y. This morning after class at Cameron, I was at your Y, Davis Y, right here in La Mesa, supporting one of my teachers. Support their programs. Support their diversity. Support their inclusiveness. And you remind these local officials that a lot of them are up for re-election and that you're keeping an eye on them. And if they do bow down to the political extremism and the hatred and the junk science presented by some of them, that, oh, I haven't missed an election yet, especially since the nightmare of 2016. And your name figures very prominently in my mind. Thank you, and God bless.
Well, we had 3 new members speak tonight, huh? I hope that we'll see you again, all 3 of you. Last chance to buy a 50-50 ticket. Katie's gonna be coming up here with the total pretty soon, and we're gonna pick a winner, which probably won't be me, but you know, hey. Come on, head up. Okay. Somebody that's unbiased, pick the ticket. And somebody at my table, check mine. John? Okay, thank you. Somebody come up and pick the ticket.
I might win, so hang on.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in again? Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Everybody, ready? And how much money is it?
How much?
63.
$63. Okay. Okay.
08.
Okay.
08.
Yeah, 08. 28. 344.
Oh, not me.
Nope.
You?
Yeah, missed it by 2 minutes. Yep.
0828344. Really? Seriously? Oh, okay. Woohoo! And yeah, I know we need to bring our glasses to these meetings. So thank you so much for attending. It was a great program. Next month we're so honored that Secretary of State Dr. Shirley Weber will be with us.
Oh!
Woohoo! So please tell your friends, come back, and thanks for being here tonight.
Excellent.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, announcements.
Excellent program.
Before you leave, I'm sorry, real quick announcement. Juneteenth is a national holiday, and La Mesa celebrated Juneteenth last year with a wonderful family-oriented event right here at MacArthur Park, right here. So we're doing it again this year. It's headed up by Alan Durden and our city councilwoman Patricia Dillard. Those are the co-chairs. We need your help. Right now, we're trying to get sponsors, we're trying to get businesses. So whoever you can think of, if you can touch base with me or with Patricia Dillard, that would be great. We're just trying to get the word out right now and get as many businesses and sponsors to come on board. Thank you.
We still got announcements. New yourself.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to introduce myself for you, those of you that don't know me already. My name is Sonara Velasquez, and I am the new Director of Council of Clubs for the San Diego County Democratic Party. The Council of Clubs is the umbrella organization that supports and charters the clubs of the San Diego County Democratic Party. So in this role, it'll be my responsibility and the responsibility of the organization to support clubs, to find ways that we can further empower our clubs and to give voice to our clubs in the San Diego County Democratic Party. Prior to stepping into this position, I've worked for many years with Tina on the Go team. And you know, when the party listens to the clubs, my observation is they tend to make the right decision. So for me, it's very important to give voice to clubs, especially wonderful, well-organized, very democratic club like the La Mesa Democratic Club. So it's an honor to be with you tonight, and I look forward to hearing how I can better, and the party can better help you. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's it. Thank you everybody for being here. Drive safe.
Did you get my text?